On the surface, it didn't make sense. A quiet suburban home in Medicine Hat, Alberta, a normal family, and a crime so shocking that even investigators struggled to process it. When police arrived in April 2006, they discovered 3 victims inside the home: a mother, a father, and their young son. The brutality of what had happened was disturbing enough, but what made the case even more difficult to understand was who was missing. 12-year-old Jasmine Richardson. At first, the assumption was the worst, that she had been taken, possibly abducted, another victim in a violent and unpredictable situation. But as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that this wasn't a random act of violence, and Jasmine wasn't a victim in the way anyone had expected. In fact, she was at the center of everything. Jasmine grew up in what many would consider a stable household, with parents who were protective, structured, and involved in her life. But like many adolescents, she began to look for identity and independence outside of that environment. And eventually, she found it in a place her parents didn't fully understand, a line and within alternative subcultures. That's where she met someone who would change everything. Jeremy, a 23-year-old man with a fascination for dark imagery, violence, and a self-described identity that blurred fantasy with reality. Their relationship formed quickly and intensely, despite the massive age difference and the obvious concerns it raised. To Jasmine, Jeremy wasn't just someone she was talking to. He represented freedom, rebellion, and a version of life that existed outside the boundaries her parents had set. To Jeremy, Jasmine became something else, entirely a focal point for his own identity, someone he believed he needed in order to complete the narrative he had built for himself. When Jasmine's parents discovered the relationship, they reacted the way most would. They intervened. They restricted contact, enforced rules, and tried to separate the two. But instead of ending the connection, it intensified it. The more resistance they faced, the stronger the bond seemed to become, fueled by secrecy, emotion, and a growing sense of us against the world. Investigators would later uncover messages between Jasmine and Jeremy that painted a disturbing picture not just of a relationship, but of a shared mindset that was becoming increasingly detached from reality. There were references to violence, to removing obstacles, to doing whatever it took to be together. At first, it may have seemed like exaggerated language, something dramatic, but not literal. But over time, those ideas stopped being hypothetical. On the night of the incident, the line between thought and action disappeared. What followed was not impulsive, it was something that had been discussed, imagined, and ultimately carried out. When police finally located Jasmine and Jeremy, the truth came into focus, and it was far more disturbing than anyone had anticipated. This wasn't just a case about violence, it was a case about influence, vulnerability, and the way identity can be shaped under the right conditions. Jasmine, at 12 years old, was still developing, still forming her understanding of the world, and she became entangled with someone who reinforced her most extreme thoughts instead of grounding them. Jeremy, on the other hand, wasn't just an influence, he was an amplifier, someone who encouraged a narrative that removed consequences and replaced them with fantasy. Cases like this raise difficult questions, because they don't fit into simple categories. It's not just about right and wrong, it's about how control, manipulation, and emotional dependency can alter decisions, especially in someone so young. The dynamic between them created an environment where reality became secondary to the story they believed they were living. And once that line was crossed, there was no going back. Jasmine Richardson was ultimately convicted, but due to her age, received a different sentence than Jeremy Steinck, who was given life in prison. But even with legal outcomes defined, the psychological weight of the case remains. Because what makes this story so unsettling isn't just what happened, it's how it happened. It's how quickly influence can take hold, how powerful the need for identity and belonging can be, and how dangerous it becomes when those needs are met in the wrong way. This wasn't just about rebellion, it was about transformation. About a shift in perception so extreme that it led to irreversible consequences. And in the end, the most disturbing part is realizing that it started the same way many things do, quietly, gradually, and without anyone fully understanding just how far it would go until it was too late. If you found this case as disturbing as it is fascinating, make sure to like the video so more people can discover these stories. And subscribe for more lesser-known true crime cases told through cinematic storytelling.